Greetings. It's come to my attention that many of you have been swept off into the magical realms of Talanua as of late. And, pursuant to your safely exploring and discovering those realms, I come to you today with certain tips and strategies and tactics that may serve you well in your travels there.
But seriously, Realms of Antiquity is now released, and the world at large can enjoy it. And at this point, I've played Realms of Antiquity quite a lot and for quite a while, so I think I've gotten a pretty good grounding on the game and the essentials of how it's played. And that being the case, I'd like to share a few pearls of wisdom with you. I want to give you the information you need. Talanua is a vast and dangerous land, and while I don't want to give away any of its secrets, I do want to give you some tips that'll set you on the right path to exploring those secrets for yourself. For those who've not yet played or considered playing Realms of Antiquity, it is now available for purchase, and the link for that is in the description. But hopefully if you're a 99er, you've already gotten a hold of the game, as, well, if you watched my channel lately, you've certainly heard about it. So let's talk strategy. And let's start with the choices all your other choices are going to depend on, those being the choices you make at party creation. The biggest question here is whether you want to go with a full party. At one end of the spectrum, naturally, you can start the campaign with a single hero who has all the abilities of the other classes, and at the other end of the spectrum, you can build a complete and well-balanced party, an agile, synergistic team. Party of 4 right away. Now, you might be inclined to say, well, clearly 4 is better than 1, and, well, to an extent that's going to be the case. However, the appeal of going with something less than 4 is mainly that you'll have space in your party for companions you meet along the way. You can't kick party members out once they've joined. Filled slots are filled forever, even if filled with pre-filled characters. And that being the case, it's worth considering starting without a complete party, so those companions who catch your interest don't get left behind. Anyway, whether you assemble a party from companions you meet along your journey or from characters added during character creation, you'll likely end up with a full party eventually. And with a full party, group order is going to be an important concern, since that order decides your turn order in battle. You probably want your buff caster casting buffs before your fighter, who intends to use those buffs, attacks. You probably want your healer to bring back a dead character before their turn comes. So, keeping that in mind, you can, and you should, press the O key to reorder your group as needed anytime you're in travel mode. Feel free to change it anytime you find that your turn order in battle just isn't optimal. One more suggestion on building your party. Respect the value of an off-caster. Only 2 classes don't use magic at all, namely Fighter and Rogue. Most classes have at least some magical ability. And a skilled archer or swordsman who can also cast a couple heals or buffs or utility spells when needed can be really helpful. So I'm a pretty big fan of the Crusader, Paladin, Ranger, and Bard classes for that reason. A character who's only a caster is going to be pretty inactive pretty often, even if the power of their spells makes up for it in big fights. But a character who's also a caster outside of a perfectly good non-magical combat role can be great. And when it comes to those casters, off-caster or otherwise, make sure you don't neglect your ranged skill. It's how most of your casters are going to attack most of the time. And once you've got wands, those can do a lot of damage. So, having a sling or a bow or a wand to make use of that extra action economy with a ranged attack is important. The town of Ashford, incidentally, has an archer who can train you up to master levels. Regardless, you can't cast spells every round of every battle, so make those rounds count with a few extra volleys from whatever ranged weapon you have. Oh, and one more tip on spell casting. You can cast buffs outside of combat, so absolutely do that. You can load up your party on every buff you need, then enter a major battle already hasted and empowered and mind-guarded and whatever it is you need. That's particularly helpful in battles which get crazy quickly. If you use a lot of buffing, it basically gives you a free round. Now, On the topic of action economy, it's worth noting that the game's action economy lets you perform any action no matter its action cost, as long as you have any action points left. The upshot of that being, it makes sense to perform your most costly actions last, since one action point is still enough to cast a spell, but if you cast it first, it might be the only thing you do. Another important part of battle strategy actually happens outside the battle itself. Who gets to attack first is determined by who gets the jump on who. Enemies will attack first if you move adjacent to them first, giving them an opening to attack, while on the other hand, if they move adjacent to you, you have an opening to attack. So, let enemies move into range of you first so you can be the one to initiate battle. The trick to forcing this is usually just expending an action without moving your character, allowing the enemy to move adjacent to you first. Usually you can do this by walking into a solid object, which expends an action without moving you, and will let the enemy move in range. If there are no solid objects nearby, a goofy way to force this is just to save your game, since this consumes an action without moving your character. And also, it just makes sense to save before battle. So, that's a lot of talk about battle, but let's talk about the finer things in life in Talanua too, like food and gambling. As far as food goes, well, be sure to pack enough of it, and always be sure you've got enough for a long stay. There are some very, very large dungeon areas in this game. Some are just huge, and some you will not be able to leave until you solve them. Plus, you don't always know when you're going to walk into a dungeon. So, make sure you have enough. Food is how you recover your stamina, so buy as much food as you can afford before setting out into the world. So, when danger strikes, you'll be supplied. You do not want to run out while locked in a giant dungeon. And how are you going to afford all that food? Well, gambling is one way. Funny how the finer things in life go together so nicely. It can be a good idea to train up one of your characters in gambling so you can make money off the poor schmucks at the local taverns at the dice table. One place you can learn to be a better gambler and, well, a better thief is the Thieves' Guild in Port Boniface, though you will have to get friendly with the guild first in order to receive that training. If you need any help with that, well, you can consult my second Realms of Antiquity gameplay video, which centers on the quests around Port Boniface. A bit of advice on exploration, which naturally you're going to be doing a lot of. The world of Talanua is, well, filled with secrets, hidden doors and switches and passages and pitfalls and you name it. And in that department, the spell Magic Eye is your best friend. You'll probably first encounter that in the Libram Iker spellbook, and by giving you a vision of the world around you, including its hidden rooms and passages, it'll show you the way time and time again. Yellow magic, which also includes the Sense spell, crucially, is your friend in this area, as the magic of light, knowledge, and revelation. As far as discovering what's hidden in the world, taverns are another key tool. Drinking at the inn or tavern, you'll hear local rumors that'll point you in the direction of whatever you need to worry about and whatever people there are worrying about themselves, and give you the lay of the land. But there are also important game events which happen during a stay at an inn, so if you ever feel like you're stuck in a quest, well, first of all, talk to folks and see if what they've got to say points you in any directions, but second of all, well, maybe you just need a good night's rest at that inn. Might not end up being a good night's rest at all, but it could be something important. So, those are a few tips on getting your quest going in Talanua. It's a long road to victory in Realms of Antiquity. It's a large world with a lot of mysteries to be solved, many of which you'll have to solve if you wish to complete your quest. As far as I know, only 2 of us have so far, but I hope that many others will join us soon. And I wish you the best of luck. This is Pixel Pedant, and fare thee well, traveler.